right, welcome back to the Shrink Wrap Show. I'm your host, John. I'm here with Pam and Talia, and today we're going to talk about how healing happens. Who knows? I don't. So we're going to ask a bunch of questions here, but I think this would be fun to start off with. For me, this happens quite often. Okay? Imagine your boss comes to you and says, "Hey, we need to talk." What do you feel? All sorts of fear, panic, anxiety. Even though for the last 3 years you've done a great job and every report has always been great. Why do you feel that? Okay, so obviously something's going on inside of you that has nothing to do with your boss or your performance, right? That's a good example for me as to what in the world is happening inside me. Maybe I should talk to someone about this and figure it out, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's a small example. I'm not talking about yelling with my spouse, right? And all sorts of stuff. Like there could be huge trauma in our lives or whatever. Mm-hmm. But that's just an example to show that like we all have something that needs working on. So healing. What is healing?
When you said that, I automatically was like, is this I need to sit down for this talk? Everybody's had that experience, right? Like, I got a text message saying, "Hey, I need to talk to you." It's important when you hear things like that.
It's the unknown.
Yeah.
What do you mean you need to talk to me? And then depending, do I have shame in my past? Did I get let go before? Have I been judged before harshly? Yeah. Have work environments been difficult for me? And, so I go to that, what didn't I finish? Or what are they cutting? Or did I hit, like, what's going on? And so when we don't have a clue, our response is going to be fear.
Yeah.
Unless they say, and how did it get delivered? Hey, I need to talk to you. That's going to be a raise our promotion.
Right.
But hey, we need to have a talk. What's coming?
Or it could even be your friend texting you and saying, "Can I call you?" And that could scare the crap out of you. But it's just like, oh, they're driving and they couldn't text,
Right.
It could be anything.
Right. But they didn't give much context.
It's the connotation. And
it's their fault.
It's the experiences that you've experienced.
Yeah. But when someone says, "Hey, we need to talk," it's important, but no worries. They give you a little bit more context. Mm-hmm. It can be helpful.
Feel a little better.
Just need to share a couple of thoughts I had about the presentation, whatever.
Right.
So I get a little bit more data, and it can be helpful. But it's what happened recently, what has happened in the past. Is it related to this particular setting, whether it's home or work or friendship or whatever? And also, what's going on with me?
Yeah. Am I hungry, angry, lonely, tired, sick, stressed?
Is there something I forgot to do? Do I typically think there's something? What's my relationship with authority?
There's so many aspects to this.
So obviously your body's remembering something that your brain has forgotten, maybe, that you're not thinking about all the time.
Maybe, but again, just normalizing that particular scenario, most all of us are going to go, okay, what's coming? Mm-hmm. That feels kind of scary.
So that's a trigger. And the question is how do we recognize that and how do we heal?
Well, let's talk about that. Healing. What is healing? What can I expect when someone says they
Well, yeah, because I'm going to say we need to have a fear response because that particular, I need to get ready for what might be coming.
Right.
And so I need my fear response. I just don't want it to happen all the time and when it doesn't need to be activated. Mm-hmm. So I kind of want to answer that with, do I need to heal that?
Sure.
Right. But also when I think about healing, there's a lot of words out there about, well, healing makes you back to perfection or back to what you were, your original. But that's not true. Mm-hmm. There's still going to be a scar of some sort.
Let's give more context. Okay, something a little more tangible. You lost a sibling. You lost a parent. You had a bad breakup or a divorce. Mm-hmm. Something you carry around with a lot and it eats your lunch. You have depression. You have childhood trauma. You have something that you know you're not A+
Right.
all the time. And you say, you feel something in your brain says, I wish I were fixed. I wish I was better.
Yeah.
So first of all, let's talk about that. Like we're carrying around stuff. What's going on?
We might be carrying around stuff that's really old stuff. So a lot of stuff. And I've been just kind of carrying it along with me, and it's not ever been addressed.
Right. It's like a festering wound. I know that's nasty thinking about it, but
Yeah,
Describe that more.
No,
and you're just like laying a Band-Aid over it and just brushing over it. That's the healing that I'm describing, or that I think you're wanting us to describe, is like, how do we, instead of have that festering wound, how do we have a scar or a clean,
Well, regardless, people recognize in themselves, I need help. I need fixing. I need some healing. And what would you say expectations can be? Because I think there are a lot of expectations. You could think, even in our last episode, we talked about the types of therapy, and you could even think, oh, well, am I just going to have to go back to all my childhood and then fix all these things? And then once I do, will I feel like a child again? Will I
Right.
feel
Right.
whole and untouched? And
No, because
you're not remembering all the bad
Right.
things. Like you didn't have perfect
Right.
glory days in your childhood too. You just forgot all the other. Anyway, so when we have expectations for healing, is it the absence of pain?
it's not necessarily the absence of pain, because I think we will experience pain. It's how profound does it feel to me? And is it interrupting my life? Is it impacting me in such a way that in the workplace, in my important relationships, I'm just not present? I'm not able to cope. I don't have resiliency. I'm not functioning well. Simple things seem complicated.
lost interest in things that you once had pleasure in doing, like art or having fun going places. So I think it really is how do you address the goal of it? What's the expectation that you're trying to get to? And it is all related to your work, love, play. If it's affecting your work, love, play, then we've got to address it.
And to remind everyone, work, love, play.
Work, love, play is what do you do as far as like...
This is like I first met you. Hey, what do you do for work?
Yeah. The contextual interviewing process of therapy, getting to know a person of what do they do for work? What do they, what are their relationships like with people? And what kind of things do they do for fun, for pleasure, for...
So if I've lost interest in interests,
Yeah.
if my relationships obviously are being affected negatively, and I don't know, I'm powerless over changing it myself, or I don't know how to do it.
And I'm just not showing up. I just don't have the bandwidth.
The performance.
If I'm distracted at work, if I, okay.
Yeah.
So you have to define your own goal of what do I need?
What do I need?
want?
Yep. And that's that part of understanding your present moment, of being self-aware of what is actually what needs to be fixed.
What would you say to someone that says, I just don't want to hurt anymore?
I understand that. And then you got to unpack that. What does that mean? What do you mean by hurt? I use SUDS levels, SUD units of distress. How bothersome is that to you? How sad are you on a scale of 0 to 10? How disturbing is that memory or that incident or that loss? And then we know what we're working with. And as Talia said, we're not going to ever be the blank slate, the clean version of the little kid that didn't know anything and was just doing life and everything's so fun and wonderful. But we we want to be able to all get back to a place where we can find some joy, and we can be present, and we're not walking around like this wounded thing that just isn't functioning, can't show up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of it will depend on, is this a recent something? Is this an ongoing, multiple incident something? What's the genesis? When did it come? How long has this been going on? Right? So marital issues. How long have you been feeling this way in this marriage? 10 years since the honeymoon. For the last month since there was an affair, right? There's going to be a completely different process of working on those issues.
Yep.
All right. So for me, I didn't know that I had depression for a lot of my life, and that felt normal to me. I didn't have anything to compare it to. It was just my experience, and I thought that was normal. And it wasn't until, I was seeing a therapist, and I'd basically exhausted every avenue for, correcting my problems or whatever. And it seemed like, no amount of prayer and no amount of therapy and whatever. Yeah. And he's like, have you ever considered you might have depression? And that felt like a huge, I had a stigma around that. That felt like a huge weakness. Like, I should be able to overcome this with self-will or with a higher power, right? With God. And then I realized I have done everything in the book. I'm depressed, you know?
Yeah.
And then, and so since then I've become more aware of that, and it's a double-edged sword because I'm aware that I'm depressed, and therefore I can treat it and I can do some things to get better. But also, it can be a blind spot. Like sometimes I'm just carrying around feelings that I don't know where they came from. And it can feel like, I just don't want to feel this way anymore. I just don't want to hurt. And so a therapist, I'm assuming, can help you catch that ghost, right?
Yeah. So question for you. When the person said, have you ever considered you might struggle with depression? Yeah. You said, gosh, that felt like a stigma. And I don't want that, and I should be able to avoid this. What's my problem? I'm a good spiritual person.
Yeah.
Was there any sense as well in there of, oh, I hadn't considered that possibility? Any relief at all, or any?
Probably deep down there was like is it that simple, and I can just let myself off the hook, Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably because it often is going to be all of that. I don't want to have that,
Yeah.
And, there's a name for that.
Yeah.
I didn't really consider that. I remember going in my, before I was a therapist, I was just a marketing person. I was a marketing person. And she said, sounds like you have dysthymia. And I go, how do you spell that? I don't want that.
Am I dying?
Can I take some Tylenol for that? And she said, well, it's a kind of a low level, like just the blues. And I thought, yes, that's exactly how I feel. Just sort of always having to hype myself a little bit and feeling. Now, she helped me understand maybe what to do about that. And there was medication as an option too. But we also had to dig in and figure out, where did that come from? Was I born that way? Probably not.
Yeah.
But things happened.
All right. So when I asked you earlier, how does healing happen? That's kind of a backdoor approach. What I'm really asking is, how does trauma work? So, how does depression happen? What is that process in our body and our mind that creates, that brings us to a place where we then need healing?
I would say, there's a difference between your mind and your brain. The brain is the functional piece. The mind is connected in the sense of that's how we process our relationships with people. It's how we think, philosophically, theologically, those kind of things. When we have things happen to us, the trauma of an event, whether it's spoken over us, we witness something, we're in something that is life-threatening, or threatening to a relationship, a disconnection of something, that gets stored inside of our brain, the limbic system, and it causes us to go into a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And those are different aspects of survival. And so in our brain, the function of the brain is to create your body to do certain things. So protect
me.
your living organs, things like that. But it's also to help regulate your emotional system, your fight, flight, freeze responses, but also your thoughts too. So the brain aspect is important when it comes to the healing process, and that's why we don't say, okay, we're gonna fix you through your fingers or your nose. No, we're fixing it through the brain and the brain chemistry of things to help with the healing process, because that's where it starts right there. Mm-hmm. Say, for example, if you've ever tasted rotten milk, you know what it smells like, you know what it tastes like, you know it's going to make your body queasy. And even you thinking about it right now, you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, like that's something that I can't ever get out of my head, right? That's a thought that you have, but it's also created to the physical function of your brain and the physical pieces of your senses.
Yeah. Well, I think that's important, though, to mention that if it's a trauma memory, if you have had an experience with the milk, being rotten, and maybe you got sick from it, and maybe you threw up from it, right? So it can be different for different people, because I may not have had ever an experience with rotten milk,
right?
And I have no trauma associated with that, and I'm going to go for it,
right?
So you talk about brain chemistry too. Well, was I born with a certain amount of serotonin and I just depleted it through difficult experiences? Mm-hmm. Or what happened with my serotonin so that I came to a place where I was dysthymic?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. See, because I feel like the need for healing, carrying something around like that, it can feel, if you have a cut on your arm, you can see it, and then you watch it heal, and that all makes sense to us. But all the stuff that we can't see inside of us can feel so vague and so hard to track down. So for me, I'm always curious, like, how does depression work? Was I born that way? Mm-hmm. Was it through all of the experiences I had, and then not just the neural pathways and trigger and response and patterns, but
was I predisposed?
Did I deplete something in me that can't come back?
Right.
I'm a firm believer in nurture and nature.
Yes.
I'm adopted, and I've met my birth family, and I can tell you that we all collectively struggle with dysthymia, depression. I didn't grow up with them. I have no reason for us to have similarity in terms of our brain chemistry. I also had things happen in life that impacted me a certain way, caused me to feel a certain way about myself, caused me to see the world a certain way. Attachment rupture, we'll talk about that later, but that happened to me as well. So I think nurture and nature. I think there are predispositions that we're born to view the world, experiences certain ways, and then things happen.
All right, so it's a mix of things, and so for me, I can say I had trauma in my childhood. In my coping with life, I had to really, work up serotonin or whatever the happy feelings in order to function or something. And then did I deplete or exhaust my I don't know what I'm talking about here, but like my adrenaline,
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you use up the serotonin?
Yeah.
And deplete it?
So there's.
Yeah,
Go
this
ahead.
is why I like neurofeedback, because we do what's called a brain map, and we can really take a look at what's going on in the brain, and certain areas will light up faster, and we can tell that that's more of an anxious state of a brain in those different areas. And then you can see it where it's darker, and those are where like depression is held in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know anything about brain functioning, the occipitals for your eyes, your visual processing, prefrontal for your planning, and like decision making, things like that. And so when we're able to pinpoint where depression, anxiety, trauma is stuck in the brain, we're able to create these new neural pathways using therapeutic techniques to turn on those different areas of the brain to heal. And that's why I think neurofeedback or neuroplasticity and like creating those new neural pathways is the most important part of healing. And we see that in things like EMDR, brain spotting.
Also CBT.
CBT.
So think about
Because
it differently.
yeah.
How can I look at that differently? I'm adopted, but, that's a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm adopted. They didn't want me. I changed the way I see that, and it changes the mood.
Mm-hmm.
It creates a new neural pathway.
Exactly. Yep.
So, and when you talk about
Neuroplasticity?
the treatment modality.
Neurofeedback. Yes.
We're talking then about stimulating parts of the brain
Yes.
that you've identified need to be more active or less active.
Or less active, yes.
So we're talking about microcurrent stimulation
It's
of the
not
brain.
shock therapy.
It's not what you talked about
it's
before,
not,
John.
Not shock therapy, but
But EMDR, that's an interesting one where the goal of it is to not have the responses or the pain be as big.
As significant. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
By bringing in either other aspects of an event that may have happened where you then notice, and there was also this other part of that I forgot, but my brain remembered. But it remembered the more profound piece of it that was the disturbing part. So the thing becomes less disturbing. I have a different thought about it. My body's not holding it like it was before, and hopefully I have a different feeling state. So we look for multiple types of change with EMDR. We look for the target's different, the image is different, the thought I have about it is different, my emotion or my body sensation. We're looking for any kind of shift.
Yep.
All right. So what can someone expect? Can they ever truly be healed? Life's not going to stop, so they're going to be disappointed again or hurt again or have pain again. But what do you say when it comes to, I guess, post-traumatic growth?
Well, let me ask you this. Oh, I like post-traumatic growth.
we do.
We talk about that a lot.
I don't know what that means.
It's a good
It
word.
means you can grow from traumatic experiences
Yeah.
by developing empathy, by developing resiliency, becoming more empowered, seeing the good in, opening up to, and having compassion for others.
Finding meaning and purpose in your story. And
As a
connecting.
Christian, that reminds me of, that feels like the Romans 8 thing for any Christians out there.
Yeah.
That feels like,
There's good in all things. It's all working together somehow. But a classic example of post-traumatic growth would be the woman who has a loss of a child in a drunk driving accident and says, you know what? I'm going to develop an organization for other people who have struggled with this, and I'm going to call it MAD. And so I'm doing something positive with my very traumatic, negative, hard experience. And there's healing and growth that comes from that.
Yeah.
There's connection in that camaraderie or that community of suffering, that it's not just me who suffered.
right.
It's others.
Once again, it's not going back to the original state. There is a scar there. It's not festering wound. Mm-hmm. It's there as a reminder, as a reminder of where we've come from and where we're going, and how we can help the next person or connect with the next person. That empathy piece is so important in that, because if I have experienced a certain hurt or loss and there's another person that's going through that, and I can touch on that with them, then it doesn't feel as painful. Mm-hmm. And that's where you know that you're healing. I would say,
and you're probably not as lonely in that story of your own as well.
Yeah. For sure.
So here, I'll share a little personal story of mine. So I grew up without a dad. I'd never met him until I was 29.
Oh, me too.
High five. Abandonment.
I've never met mine.
Oh,
here we are.
All right, here we are.
I don't know. I'll take a half a
dad club.
This is something we didn't know about each other.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why we're all drawn to each other, right? So that comes with its own baggage for sure. And there was a man at the church when I was really little who would take me and my siblings out. I'm a half brother, so all my siblings went through a divorce, and I'm the youngest. And so I'm a half sibling to them. And so this guy would come around and take us out on Friday night, and they're a little resistant to that, right? Because they've been hurt by men, and this isn't their dad. But for me, it's like a guy. Yeah. Like, so I knew the pain of not having a dad, and I knew what someone kind of trying to fill that in, like how big that felt. And this one day I'm driving home. I was working for a tree removal service, driving home or driving out of a neighborhood at the end of the day, and I see this woman and her kids cleaning up sticks in her yard, putting them in a sled and on a wagon, and they're pulling each other. And it seems like a normal situation, but something huge in me, which I deem as a spiritual moment, felt deep compassion, and I couldn't shake it. And all the way back across town to the shop yard, I'm like praying and thinking like, what do I do? And the only thing I could think of was, what the Bible says about true religion is to take care of widows and orphans in their distress. And at the risk of looking like a total idiot, I drive back across town after work, and I knock on her door and say, hey, I think I'm supposed to help you with your yard. I know that might sound crazy. And in tears, she tells me that her husband died the previous year, and it's been really hard. And in that moment, it was like what I experienced that was so painful, and also the good things that I experienced in that, I then started to see myself in a bigger picture of like, who better to knock on that door than, and these, so we got some guys from the church to help with the yard and make some plans for the kids and stuff. But you can integrating your pain and this, I don't think this was me trying to save myself, right?
Right.
No, but in the process.
But in the process, it was healing. It was like, this wasn't all for waste. I can help others in this. And there's something very healing about that. So hugely
healing about that.
Yeah.
That's magical. That's transformative when something like that happens.
Right. That you started to see your weaknesses not as flaws and dings and I'm just, used goods, or you started to see them as strong points of like, oh my gosh, there's a whole world out here that needs help, and I've got some pretty killer tools in my tool belt after going through hell, that's
I think that's what draws many of us into this field, is those wounds and trying to find our own sources of healing and being able to just get down in the dirt of hurt so that we can be accessible and available and relatable with clients. It's the thing that draws us in many times. So I don't know, John, you said a lot there. And one of the things you said really made me think of, I often will talk to people about who loved you into being, who was there for you to help create you into your you-ness, your selfness. And it's people like that man that took you to a meal that, you know, or I talk about my story of not having a mom who really loved me and then being rejected by a bio mom and having so many women in my life that became that substitute mom for me.
Yeah.
At kind of a composite, because I would pull this from that and this person. And I still remember the woman who said to me, I'm going to be looking for great things that God's going to do through your life.
Yeah.
And she saw something that I didn't even know what she was talking about. But she spoke these words of helping me into my selfness.
Yeah.
And healing comes in huge ways from those kinds of interactions and encounters.
I'm thankful for that person to do that because I absolutely adore this woman.
Same.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know if we answered a ton here, but we definitely covered a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Healing
yeah.
is a process.
It's a process.
It happens in connection.
It happens in connection.
It happens in surprise ways where I am thinking I'm healing you, but you're healing me. I said today when I was sharing in the sermon, I said, I don't know if I do therapy for me or you, or them,
Yeah.
because I get so much healing from it. When we go out onto the mission field and we're doing our
That's my
trauma
favorite.
workshops, we think we're going to go help them, and we're changed.
Yeah.
All right. So before we wrap up, let's kind of recap. So trauma comes in all shapes and forms. It can be genetic.
Capital T, lower T.
Yep. It can be experiential, crises, all sorts of things. It can be big and small, right? And there's a whole triage, I'm sure, that you guys have to deal with. Healing can be big and small, too. And it can be a process, or it can be, hey, this thing, I feel like it's wrapped up in my life. And that comes through different ways. It comes through narrative. It comes through experiences. What you might want to,
Yeah.
It comes through shock therapy, like you said.
Yeah.
It comes through lobotomies, can help. I mean, we just did a training in that.
Oh my goodness.
Just kidding.
And then mile markers would be, I don't feel this isn't as big as it was.
It was a 10, now I'm a 5.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe mile markers are I'm functioning. I'm taking this experience and I'm actually helping others who are in the same, or I feel compassion or empathy or capacity to help others.
Noticing myself dealing with my anxiety differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was so anxious yesterday to speak in Spanish for an hour straight doing a sermon. And at Bunko, people were saying, well, you need to do your breathing square. You need to do your grounding. You need to pray.
Regulation.
Let me just remind you, you know how to do this. You can do this. So it's cognitive, behavioral, experiential, interact. It was
Stabilization.
therapy. It was reinforcement. It was reminder. It was just a whole bunch of different therapeutic treatment modalities on the down low.
Right.
So what would you say to this? Because it's not like when you talk about work, love, play, you know, some of that could just be like disorganization or dysregulation, right? Is that the word? So what would the difference be between regulation and healing?
I take it from a trauma lens and I look at, can we create a safe and stable environment and use our emotional regulation to process what's going on? Then you go into this next stage where you're processing the traumatic experience and you find that purpose and meaning. And then from there, you can take it out and connect with others through that.
So stabilizing first.
Yeah, stabilizing first.
And then pulling out, working on,
Yes.
growing, examining.
And I guess what I'm asking is the different types of trauma, you know, it makes sense that you can have mile markers around a traumatic event. Like, you know, this thought or these kind of interactions don't bother me as much.
Yeah.
But when it comes to things like general depression, something like that, general anxiety, you know, how can you spot that you're healing from that? Is that a regulation issue, or is that a...
Well, you're going to notice, first of all, you're going to notice, I'm feeling a little bit better. I'm not wanting to sleep all the time, or I'm not able to not sleep at all. I'm eating better instead of not eating at all, or overeating and indulging. I'm wanting to kind of do some things. It's not feeling so overwhelming to get dressed, take a shower, start the car, go meet with people I don't know. So my interests and activities that used to be of interest are again.
Not being cynical at work, or I'm not being cynical or sarcastic in my relationships. That is fracturing our relationship.
Yeah, I feel more interest in engaging. I have more energy, a little more motivation.
Now, do people ever replace healing with achievement?
Absolutely.
You know, what you're describing, I could just say, you know what, I'm getting stuff done. I've completely locked into that mode, and now it's just my new fixation.
I mean, in true depression, clinical depression, I'm not going to be able to
You
Yeah,
can't
right.
do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it can go to that I look at it from
I'm faking
the framework of addiction there. Like, you go on the opposite side of that pendulum. You're so invested in
Now I'm just running.
Is what I'm describing the up and down of depression and anxiety, where, okay, I do have clinical depression, and then as I get treatment, I achieve, but it's really out of anxiety that I don't get depressed again.
Yes,
And I'm
yeah.
running from depression.
That's where that window of tolerance
Yeah.
we talk about. It's not that we want to be happy all the time. We just want to be stable. And for some people, that's scary, especially for
To
bipolar.
feel stable and not have chaotic. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're either one or the other. And so that stability for some people can be challenging for them, because they want excitement.
That's a whole other topic we should talk about at some point, where I have to create chaos because that's safe for me.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm familiar with.
So,
And it feels way too scary when things are going well, and they'll create a problem.
Yeah, so that's where you've
more-
got to narrow in that am I content with where I'm at, or do I have anxiety with it, or do I have depression with it? So finding that middle ground.
There's such a range with anxiety and depression.
Yes.
Right? I'm in an emotional crisis breakdown, and I need to just get off the grid for a while and get into a psychiatric hospital.
Right.
Right? Just for a break. Or I'm struggling a little bit and it's situational and or specific, something very specific. I just had a major loss. So, man, feeling depressed about that and feeling anxious about that. I had a client just come in, and her daughter died in a car accident. Her son just got his license. And so her anxiety began when he got his permit, and now when he got his license, and then when he got his own vehicle.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a good place to stop. Isn't a good place to stop. That was a heavy story.
Yeah.
But there's a lot there, and I think we should come into one of these in another episode.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe
Healing is a
something
process, and so is shrink wrap.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that feels like a good moment to kind of pause and sign off. I think we should jump into one of those topics on another upcoming episode, like maybe chaos and regulation.
Personality disordered behavior.
Sure, whatever that means.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Please like, subscribe, share, and let us know what you're wanting to hear, and we will do our best to get to it. We want to hear what you want to hear from us. So we'll see you next time at the Shrink Wrap Show.